Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about Cosmic Trinity farming. So, I have not actually moved, I'm actually at Pancake's place. However, she has my old computer, which of course has my OBS still set up, so I'm able to at least broadcast, stream / record from here. So the background looks a little different, things look a little unusual, new camera angle. But regardless, Cosmic Trinity Annihilation, I should say, or CTA, is an endgame dungeon that features basically almost all the bosses in the game in a randomized order across 6 floors, as well as a final boss at the end that is one of 3 different things that are new and somewhat terrifying for the most part. Now, Cosmic Trinity upon release was definitely a very intimidating dungeon. However, over time with power creep, new stronger leaders, and better theory crafting overall, we've somewhat mitigated a lot of the risk and taken out some of the guesswork as to what we need to overcome the final spawns. And that has led to somewhat of like carry teams, or teams that are able to essentially efficiently clear Cosmic Trinity with minimal effort. Now, this article will basically be going over common carry setups, as well as like advice of what you can bring if you don't have those carry teams, but at least showcasing how the carry team functions and how you could possibly replicate if you have some or at least most of the parts available. So what exactly is Cosmic Trinity Annihilation? So CTA is a 7-floor dungeon with the first 6 floors featuring randomized spawns from a set pool that we have all seen at some point in time in our pad lives. They're basically descend bosses that have grossly augmented stats. Like, we have encounters with like 30, 40, sometimes 50 million health, and that's not really a common thing when you play through those dungeons. So because of this higher health pool that you have overall, it's going to be a little more challenging to punch through those spawns. Furthermore, these encounters also feature significantly higher damage outputs, so you have to have teams that either can punch very hard or at least tank out those punishing blows. Now, for the most part, floor 1 tends to be a lot easier, so a lot of teams will want to stall out if it's required. Obviously, stalling carries its own inherent risk, so in an ideal world, you don't actually have to stall whatsoever. But of course, floor 1 still has Soptet and Azazel, I can't say their name, but those 2 spawns are terrible for the most part. But other than that, floor 1 is relatively easy. Now, unique hurdles to Cosmic Trinity. So basically every dungeon in Puzzle & Dragons has their own kind of unique hurdles that you have to overcome, and Cosmic Trinity is obviously no exception, because not only do you have to face these incredibly dangerous spawns that get stronger and stronger, but they're done so in a randomized order. You can't necessarily predict who you're going to face. You can kind of know what's the worst case scenario, but it doesn't mean it's going to be an easy encounter, because you still obviously could be wrong. However, what I want to stress is that we are playing in 3-player co-op, and 3-player co-op has a lot of problems built in itself that makes it a lot more challenging than it would, say, in co-op or even in solo mode potentially. So in 3-player co-op, you actually are running a self-sufficient team that is very dependent on skill boosts, as well as having the ability to deal with binds on your own, because you only can charge up your active skills every 3 turns, because you have to wait for your turn to charge up your active skills. So say you're player C, player A and B take their turn, then it comes to you. You take 1 turn, you have 1 turn worth of skills charging up. Then it goes to your partners. This is going to be problematic, because then again, you can't charge up. So it makes it actually very challenging to stall. And this is where you need to bring or find a balance between valuable skill boost subs who actually have proficiency in the team composition you are running. So again, it's kind of that gentle balancing point of enough skill boost, enough actual damage output or functionality for the card. Furthermore, in this whole theme of self-sufficiency, you need to have full skill bind resistance, because of the fact that it's not 2-player co-op. In 2-player co-op, you are able to actually have your skill bind resist added up across the 2 teams, but in 3-player, you are unable to do so. So because of that, you have to make sure you have 100% coverage, or your partners will really hate you. Now, there's a little bit of a checklist of things that I want to go through when playing through Cosmic Trinity, or at least thinking of a team that can tackle it. So you want to have at least enough skill boost to have some actives ready by your first turn. You don't want to potentially be racing through the dungeon. It comes to your turn on floor 3 because you're player C, and you have nothing ready, and then you get smacked and you die. Like, that's a bad scenario. So you want to make sure you at least have enough skill boost to have at least something ready in time. You need to make sure you have 100% skill bind resist coverage, and you also need to have a solution to binds. Bind immune leaders are obviously preferable, but because clearing binds does not work across teams, or like the row clear bind awakening does not work across teams. You need to have some way to deal with it on your own. You also need to have the ability to deal sufficient damage. You don't want to be just kind of a limp fish flopping around. Like, that's not going to really help your team that much. And in Cosmic Trinity, for the most part, killer awakenings are an asset. There is only really Sopdet and Hanuman who have basically those damage absorption mechanics. So for the most part, it's safe to bring killers, and you want to hit it very hard, basically, for the most part. You want to ideally have some form of durability. In an ideal world, that can come from HP recovery, or even damage mitigation that's passively occurring when you match certain combos or elements. And you don't want to bring an orb-hungry monocolor team or a 5-orb 1 enhanced team. Now, the reason why I advise you not to bring those types of teams is because for very orb-hungry monocolor teams, you're going to be obviously very reliant on your active skills, but let's say you will run out of active skills, or you might need multiple active skills to achieve your level of damage. Like, I don't know what team that would necessarily apply to, but you want to be conscious of that, because your partners may or may not save you orbs. Coordination is not necessarily a thing in 3-player because you only have the nice button, so it's not going to really help out for the most part. However, with the nice button, the only kind of communication we have at this point in time is if someone is spamming nice, it means you should pass your turn. Other than that, we don't have much to work with unless you use like a third-party application like Discord or Facebook Messenger, so on and so forth. Now, with those orb-hungry teams, you're going to run out of those orbs. But with 5-orb 1 enhanced teams, they are the worst to bring, because you need to have an enhanced orb on the board on your turn in order to deal damage. And if your partners are not running any orb enhanced awakenings of that color, you're never ever going to have enhanced orbs on your turn. Yes, on your turn you can match and the new orbs fall down that are enhanced, but unless your partners are very nice and try and save those orbs, which is very unlikely, it's not going to succeed. So only 5-orb 1 enhanced teams if everyone brings those awakenings. Upstairs neighbors are incredibly loud. I can hear it. I'm pretty sure you can hear it too. Like, just a small town girl apparently living in a lonely world. So, carry teams. So, basically due to the fact that Cosmic Trinity has been out for several months, and Japan has obviously had this for 3 months longer than we have, there has been a lot of theory crafting as to what can constitute as a team that can kind of carry your other players through the dungeon. Now, the idea of the carry team should be to at least kill 2 out of the 3 spawns at the very end. Now, I'm only saying 2 out of 3 because Azaroth is a very rare spawn by comparison. You are going to encounter 9 out of 10 or more of the other 2, so it's not necessarily something you need to necessarily budget against for the most part. Like, more, I think it's less than a 10% chance. Maybe it's like 5% spawn rate. It's quite low for the most part. And one common factor that is across all of these Cosmic Trinity bosses is the fact that they have Dragon and Devil typing. So the Dragon and Devil Killer awakenings and latents are actually invaluable for dealing spectacular amounts of damage because they all have stupendously high amounts of health. The blue one has 200 million health, a 50% resolve, and they spawn a row of clouds at the very bottom. So you're going to have a tough time seeing and matching. He has 200 million health and a resolve. So for the most part, the most efficient way to deal with him is to use a full board changer to make it all one color, and then you use a Mel style active to produce a column of hearts to get that follow-up attack. You will then basically have 3 combos and hopefully enough damage to punch through him. That's the easiest way to deal with it, because if you don't, you're going to be taking a gigantic amount of damage, facing a combo shield with clouds, and having mortal poison skyfalls. Not a pleasant scenario overall, but again, the follow-up attack is crucial to success. The green one has 300 million health, but no resolve. However, their wonky mechanic is the fact that the entire board is super darkened orbs. And these super darkened orbs are not revealed by moving orbs along. They're only basically removed / kind of revealed, cleared when you actually match those orbs. So if you're completely in the dark, you can't turn on a light to solve your problems. You actually have to either match and pray you memorize where the orbs are, which is a very slow and tiresome process, or you utilize full board changes again and you can swipe, or utilize board changes to achieve a bi-elemental board of your primary color and your heart orbs, because you can see the shape of the orb. So if it's a jammer or poison, you can see what it looks like, but heart orbs are squares and every other color is a circle. So because of all that, you are actually able to essentially kind of cheese that mechanic if you're producing, say, a 2/3 board of primary color and 1/3 hearts, or again, if you use that Mel strategy of the column and the full board changer. That is the easiest way to deal with those darkened orbs, because then you clear the entire board, and then every orb that falls down now is actually revealed, so you can deal with it. But hopefully you've actually one-shot him at that point in time. And last but not least is Azoth, and they have 500 million health, which is outrageous for the most part. And they will also produce 99 turns of locked orb Skyfalls. And that is problematic, because if you're running a team that has no orb unlock, you'll never be able to ever change your orbs away. So for the most part, because he has 500 million health and a damage void of over 30 million, you need a Pixel Awakening if you want to one-shot it. And at this point in time, Yogg is the most common team to actually do that. So what I want to stress is that if you see one of your partners with the Yogg carry team, which is shown down below, and you arrive at Azoth, pass. Do not make any combos, because they'll produce locked orbs and that will ruin their damage calculations overall. If you don't have a pass, make 0 combos. That counts as a pass. Azoth doesn't actually do anything for several turns. He basically has a 4-turn timer when above 70%, I believe. So what you want to do is basically just make sure it gets to that Yogg player with no locked orbs on the board whatsoever, so they're able to use their active skills and cruise that desirable board, which I'll explain down below, to actually kill him in one shot. Otherwise, you basically screwed yourself and the Yogg player over, and no one's gonna be happy. So, all that aside, these are what I feel are the more commonly used Cosmic Trinity carry style teams. Now, basically the lineup will showcase the subs, the inherits, and well, or more so the mandatory inherits, I should say. You can have flexibility with the ones that are left blank, but also show the mandatory killer latents that you need to have. If it doesn't show killer latents, you don't have to have them. Of course, they're nice to have for other spawns, but they're not mandatory if they're not shown on those cards. So what you can use for those other latent slots are skill delay resist. That's another good blanketing option. Like, it's never going to be bad to have skill delay resist for the most part. So the first one is Inahime, and before I talk about Inahime, I want to basically discuss how powerful leaders are in Cosmic Trinity that cannot match sets of 3. Now, you may think being unable to match a set of 3 is a liability, and it definitely is for the most part. However, in Cosmic Trinity, it actually can be beneficial, because A, it's a short dungeon, so you're able to use orb changers to overcome that slightly more orb hungry nature. But because you can't match 3, you can kind of set up a board for your partner, or ensure that their orbs or those colors remain after you make your matches. So for example, Inahime needs fire combos. Let's say I'm running with Inahime with a Yogg and an Oichi team, let's say hypothetically, so green and yellow. On my turn, I will match basically all my red and all the other colors, but if I leave green and yellow, it's very unlikely they're actually going to be Skyfall matched away, so my teammates will actually have their orbs for their turn. So that is actually very valuable. That can be an asset. Furthermore, if you're playing with a combo-based team like, say, Blue Hunter, what you could even do, if you know you can, if you can stall out a turn, is you can actually match the whole board for them, like sets of 3, and because you can't clear sets of 3, they'll just stay on the board, and then when it goes to your combo-based partner's turn, they will just swipe an orb, and all those combos are matched because you pre-made it. Even if you can't pre-match an entire board, pre-match half the board. You're still helping out. So it can be a beneficial thing. So for Inahime, for instance, like, I only need 2 sets of fire combos. So I'll make the 2 sets of fire combos at the top, and then at the bottom I'll match sets of 3. So then it comes to my partner's turn, they have an easier time. So that applies to all match 4 leaders that are unable to connect 3 orbs. So that will apply to the further leaders I'm going to talk about in a moment. So outside of that potential for teamwork, Inahime does have a very high multiplier for 2 fire combos. It will most likely kill most things with just 2 sets of 4. But one thing that is very powerful about them is they have obviously a shielding mechanic so they can survive, but they can capitalize on Tsubaki very naturally. Tsubaki has double devil killers, and that's a they have double dragon killers naturally, and that allows them to do 9 times damage to dragon spawns, which are the bosses. But you also need to have these devil killers in order to kill the blue spawn, because again, it has a very high durability. However, this team here, it does function well even without Mel. Now, basically, for most Cosmic Trinity carrier teams, you need 3 active skills to kill the boss. This setup only requires 2 because Sonata kind of does both things. So the idea is I pop Erd, then Sonata, so you have a 2/3 enhanced fire board, 1/3 heart board. And with that, you are able to basically kill any of those spawns, except Azoth, with those two active. So that gives you a bit more flexibility because you are able to utilize 4 active skills getting to the bosses. So that can help to a certain extent overall. Obviously, you have to do some puzzling, and it is possible for Erd to screw you over royally with like no red orbs. But for the most part, I use this team on Mantastic, and it's quite reliable. Outside of player skill issues, it's killed the bosses every single time. So I feel it's quite useful. Of course, you can use Beach Goemon instead of Sonata. You'll run Mel somewhere, but you have to stall because there's just not enough. There's not a way to get enough skill boosts. You need to run 2 Tsubakis in order to kill the blue spawn. You only need 1 for the green one, but you won't have enough damage if you are running without 2 Tsubakis. Next is Nene. Now, Nene is not necessarily a traditional carry team, even though she follows the same idea of inability to connect 3 orbs. However, she does struggle a bit more because she has less access to natural killer awakening subs that are able to punch through those bosses. So you may think that's going to be a problem. However, she can make great use of water skill boost cards because you have natural access to Whale Door and Blue Odin. And with this setup here, as well as Mori Montanari as an inherit, I am actually able to bring a Fujin and have Fujin ready for floor 6 by the time I reach there. No stalling required whatsoever. Basically, I would take 2 turns with a Mori Montanari being popped at some point, and I would actually have enough skill boost and haste to actually have Fujin ready in time. So that basically leaves me with several active skills to at least kill floors, because Nene still does wonderful damage with 2 sets of water combos. Now, I'm using a Blue Odin instead of a 3rd Whale Door because you don't need the 5th skill boost, and with Blue Odin you would get some row awakenings, so you can connect rows to actually punch your damage a little higher. You need to have Sarasvati or something with a skill bind resist because Whale Doors and Blue Odin have no skill bind resist, so you want to make sure you have 100% coverage. Now, one other nice aspect of this is because you have so many skill boosts, you are able to actually use Carrot as an inherit. And if you have Carrot as an inherit, you're going to have a stupendously high multiplier, which will make all your partners very happy because you get to the boss and you can do very little matching and probably crush things because you're getting like 7 times multiplier or something silly along those lines. So this is an actual interesting concept, and because Whale Doors are farmable, you have that option as well. You could stick 3 Whale Doors if you really wanted, but you need to have 1 skill bind resist sub. If you stick in 3 Whale Doors, you get 1 more skill boost. So Sarasvati, who has 3 skill boosts, now you can use a 2 skill boost card, but I like this combination more overall. I can't make this team perfectly because I don't have a gemstone on Fantastic who has Nene, but it works out for the most part. Oh, and oh yeah, by the way, the Hermes inherit could be anything you want. I just kept Hermes so it has synergy with Nene's active skill if I want a bigger board or if I want to have just a heavy orb changer overall. Oichi is very similar to Inahime. Again, they have the inability to match sets of 4. So again, all those perks and benefits, but Oichi has natural access to Mito. And Mito has double Devil Killers and it can equip Devil Killer Latents. And with all the power, you are going to basically punch for incredibly high amounts of damage. However, what makes Oichi a little more efficient overall, in my opinion, is the fact that they have Avalon Drake and only need to run 1 Killer Awakening sub. So basically you have Verdandi for the follow-up attack, you have the Mito for the big damage punching, and you have Zeus Dios for the full board. You pop Zeus Dios, you pop Mel, you pop an Orb Enhance. Yomi could be any wood orb enhance. I just chose Yomi because I had one and that's what I'm using personally. It could be anything you want that enhances wood damage. And with a Zeus Dios, with a Mel, with a wood orb enhance, you have enough damage to kill the 2 out of the 3 spawns. What are they doing? And with that, that is amazing. And Avalon Drake has 4 skill boosts, and with those 4 skill boosts, you're obviously able to have no stalling required whatsoever, and have active skills ready to punch down through the bosses. Now, if you don't own Avalon Drake, this is okay, because you can just use Tengu. Avalon Drake is obviously a better option because they have offensive awakenings, but Tengu is a farmable option. So in this team, you actually have a Tengu, and you could have a Zeus Dios, so you have a very farmable option for the most part, compared to other setups out there. And again, it's not that, it's the gentlest, I feel, in terms of team building requirements, because you have 2 farmables and only 1 card needs to stick on Latents. So again, it can be a little easier for the most part. And now we come to Yogg, who is considered the best Cosmic Trinity carry team because they can overcome combo shields because they don't have to connect 4s, they can connect 3s. But Yogg can capitalize on pixel cards, and in my opinion, I feel that the yellow or light pixel cards are the strongest ones overall because Cloud comes with natural awakenings, natural Devil Killer awakenings. So in this setup here, you have enough skill boost to have your kill board present. You have to run double pixels because double pixels with double killers because, again, you only have one card with Natural Awakenings, so it's going to be a little lower damage technically compared to, say, 2 Tsubakis, but that's why you're needing to have 3 killer latents overall. But Yogg's kill board is actually, you pop Yogg for buy element of Heart Light, you pop Anna Valkyrie, which is a farmable inherit, to produce a full board of enhanced light orbs, and then you pop Beach Miru. Now, Beach Miru will produce 7 heart orbs at random, which you move around. So you basically have a board of 23 enhanced light and 7 enhanced heal orbs. And from there, you manipulate those heart orbs into the position you need. If you're facing the blue spawn, you just make... if you're facing the blue spawn, you make a column for a follow-up attack. If you're facing basically the other spawns, you would make the Box Awakening attack, because the Box Awakening will produce more damage for Cloud and Lightning. And basically the Box Awakening would be like 3 hearts here, and you basically have the 3x3 box here, and then 3 hearts there. So you're making a box with a little hole there, essentially. You can put the 7th heart up there, but keeping it empty gives you more combos overall. But regardless, you are going to have the highest amount of damage output with that planning, and that's why Beach Miru is the most desirable inherit for this team. And you need those basically to deal follow-up attack or the Box Awakening, and basically the idea is y'all can deal crazy amounts of damage, and it can actually kill Azoth. But again, if you see any of your partners with these setups, you should pass or find a way to make it so it's their turn so they can deal with the boss, because you don't want to take hits unnecessarily, because then mechanics get come up and then you may not actually succeed. And last but not least is Dark Metatron. I used Dark Metatron when Cosmic Trinity debuted, but she's obviously become replaced by these sexier options for the most part. And I do have an article written about how I use Dark Metatron for farming, but it's less consistent because you need to stall a bit. But again, floor 1 is easy to stall on, but again, Dark Metatron can work. And Dark Metatron is tanky and durable, so you are able to tank and need hits for your teammates if necessary. Now, what if I don't have any of these teams or leaders? So that is probably the norm for a lot of players out there, and in my opinion, if you are missing these leaders but still obviously want to play Cosmic Trinity, Blue Hunter I feel is the way to go. Now, I know a lot of people get scared when I say Blue Hunter, but Blue Hunter actually has respectable damage output if you can combo a board. Now, obviously you want to make sure you can make 7 combos minimum every single time, but that is usually enough to do enough damage if you are running 7 combo awakening subs, and that's the key. Blue Hunter has a reasonable multiplier of 7 combos, but it's the subs that can equip 7 combo, that come with those 7 combo awakenings is going to make you actually deal enough damage to push through the floors and basically help your team move along through the dungeon. Obviously, Blue Hunter has the ability to overcome combo shields, which is important for Oichi and Inahime teams, but Blue Hunter also comes with Dragon Killers. You can bring subs of Killer Awakenings. You have great team building flexibility. And the reason why I suggest Blue Hunter over Anubis is because statistically on average, a given board will have 7.5 combos on the board. You would have, it's usually between 7 or 8, so that's why I said 7.5. But Anubis only deals damage when you have 8+ combos. So because of that, and barring bad luck from Skyfalls or poor boards of 7 combos, you are going to have a bad time. Furthermore, Blue Hunter has unconditional health and unconditional recovery multipliers, so you're able to have a lot more forgiving wiggle room overall. So that's why I would recommend Blue Hunter, but obviously you want to make sure you have cards with 7 combo awakenings and ideally killers at the same time if at all possible. So another strategy is you can bring a team that has more utility and support. So if you bring something with shields, damage enhanced delays, you can be still useful to your teammates. So in conclusion, Cosmic Trinity is definitely a very challenging dungeon if you go in unprepared, but it has definitely become significantly easier over time because we now have sexier teams, sexier options available to ourselves. Now, obviously these carry teams are very powerful, and if you do see partners with them, make sure you pass or find a way to get it to their turn when you arrive at the boss, because you don't want to take hits unnecessarily or get those locked orbs falling down. Again, Cosmic Trinity may not offer killer latents or monster points as prizes, but the boss drops are actually quite powerful if you can max skill them and max level awaken them, etc., because they actually are quite high stats, they have co-op boost awakenings, and they're quite powerful for the most part. So let me know what you use for Cosmic Trinity in the comments below. What do you think about the dungeon? What's your experience been thus far? Has it been successful? Has it been frustrating? Will you maybe try or experiment with these teams that I explained above? Hopefully you all have a mantastic day, and happy puzzling!